one of the co-founders. The other person who is on our end that joined today is Chi. So he's actually the head of tech in our company. So I think it would be great for him to join us, and for anyone who decides to participate in our project, to learn directly from Chi, because he's really good at what he does. So let me just start. As Cherry mentioned, we are Butler. We are a residential enhancement platform. Today, quickly going to go through, what the heck is Butler, right? And then for this project specifically, I think it'll be quite fun, because what we want to do is it has to do with climate change issues. And we're going to talk about what is the requirement, what you need to do, and end with some Q&A. Obviously, if you guys have questions, during the time that you are working, you can always ask us then. You don't have to ask all the questions now. So quickly, so what do we do, right? We are actually working in the intersection of the real estate side, the hospitality side, and the technology side. And what we're doing is digitalizing and tech enabling residential living. Our product, so this is like a screenshot interface of our product. We have two interfaces. On the left side is actually a CRM. So this CRM is actually used by all the property developers, property managers, property sales team in Hong Kong. And then on the right side, we connect this kind of CRM onto the front end, and we use WhatsApp as our front end. So we don't use a building mobile app, which is, I guess, more common nowadays. Some of you might live in buildings who actually have or use building mobile apps. And what do you usually use to do, right? Like you use it to book, for your gym room, book for facility, register for your visitor in advance if your friend comes to visit you. For us, we put all those onto WhatsApp. So you don't even have to download a mobile app to do everything that I just said. So that's the long story short of what we do. But let me just quickly go on to what we're trying to do, or what we hope CIS students help us on this project. Right? Climate change issue. On the very far left, I'm sure a lot of you are aware of the term ESG, environmental, social, and governance. Under ESG, there is the climate change issues. So I'm not gonna, bore you guys with why global warming is so important, right? But in Butler, what we want to do is provide a tool to help reduce carbon footprint, right? And reducing carbon footprint, I'm sure many of you are familiar why it's important, right? It mitigates the effect of the global climate change. It lessens the severe weather events, et cetera, et cetera. And our project this time is through Butler, because the fact that we have thousands and thousands of users, we want to give them a tool. And this tool helps them calculate their carbon footprint. So if you know how much carbon footprint you are producing, that way you can track and actually help reduce and, have the awareness to help with the global climate warming issues. So that's kind of our idea. So specifically, what do you need to do, right? This project, should you choose to, be involved, you basically have to use Progressive Web App, PWA. I'm sure you guys actually heard of it, but if not, we have a lot of information. So it's basically a tech that is in between a mobile app, which users need to download, and a website, which users don't need to download. A progressive website app is something in between, where users do not need to download this app, but at the same time, they can still use it, and the app is still functionable without connecting to the internet. So using a progressive web app, we want you guys to build a carbon footprint calculator. Obviously, some of you are very familiar with what a carbon footprint calculator is. Some of you might not. But long story short, it just allows you to type in some of the some information. For example, stuff you ate, what you used to do, what you used to commute from location A to location B. And after inputting certain information and data about your lifestyle, the calculator would calculate how much carbon footprint you have emitted. So, that's essentially it. And we need you for this project to build a user-friendly carbon footprint calculator on the Progressive Web app, and ideally program language of your choice, but ideally using JavaScript. So this is an example of the carbon footprint calculator. So there's an input, which I mentioned, from point A to point B, transportation, or MTR stations, or the distance, etc. This is one of the input, your holiday travels, type of food you ate, the waste that you disposed, or other source of CO2s. And once you input all these information onto the calculator, we want the calculator to present the output visually, aesthetically user-friendly, right? So charts, graphs, basically any information that the user input as an output, it would become something that is easily understandable. And after seeing this output, the third step is we want the Progressive Web app to give some suggestions, some helpful tips. So say, for example, after calculating a carbon footprint and the person is emitting, the most for commuting, right? Then maybe a suggestion would be, hey, actually you can walk from point A to point B instead of, taking a taxi every day. So, that's a tip, a helpful tip for the user to reduce their carbon emission, and at the same time maybe give them more information on why emitting carbon is bad, basically, right? And it affects global warming. And so, three things: the input, all those input data, you need to visualize it, and how to act on it. This is from the user's perspective. So that's kind of part one, right, for the project. And for part two, we want you guys to build some game ideas on this carbon footprint, right? And the objective essentially is we want to increase the usage rate by adding, fun to this calculator, and a few ideas that can be implemented to gamify this calculator would be, for example, creating healthy competition between friends, so you can see each other's footprint saved, right? Or we can create a virtual forest, and the more carbon footprint that you're able to reduce, the bigger the forest is, right? So it's like a game. It's like, I don't know, like Tamagotchi. You can like have a Neopet and you grow it. Instead of growing virtual pets, you're growing virtual forests. Or different missions that would lead to CO2 reduction. So, for example, if they can take a picture of them recycling, and they complete this mission, they certain rewards, right? So these are just three examples of how to make end users have more fun while calculating their carbon footprint. And this is important, right? Like, we don't want people to get bored every day. They just go in and just type in some number and then they say, oh, okay, today that's my carbon footprint. That's kind of boring. So we need to tie these gamified ideas to our carbon footprint calculator. And both of these are linked on the Progressive Web app platform. Obviously, if you guys have time, we do have some suggestion on the game ideas. For example, number one, converting those CO2 into tree equivalent. Number two, create an API to make the calculator public. Number three, scanning the residents' energy bills, right? Like if you're the end user and you scan this month's electricity bill onto the Progressive Web app, and it could record it and also calculate onto the carbon footprint calculator, that would be great as well. Or any basic ideas that you can collect data. So other than the end users inputting locations that they travel from, scanning the energy bills, taking photos of, rubbish or wastage that they recycle. Is there any way that you guys can come up with as an idea to promote these end users to give more actions that they did in relation to ESG onto this Progressive Web Um, so to tie the both idea together, calculator and game, right? So let me just repeat again. What we're looking for is a carbon footprint calculator and some game on it, on this progressive web app. So to give you an example, right, we envision the main page is the calculator with the data visualization. So data visualization is what I mentioned here just now on graphs, charts, and the tips, which is, why, these things that you do give a positive impact. And on this main page of calculator, there will be links to inputting the new data, the games that I mentioned just now, friendly competition, the rewards, the virtual forest, and the various enhancements, etc. So a calculator on the main page with visualization and some tips, which includes links to these four here. In terms of the logic, though, I think to keep it more simple, our main kind of piece is the calculator. The calculator should tie up to all those games and information. So you should start thinking, from the calculator as the fundamental base. And once the end user input data through the calculator will update other parts of the progressive web app, such as the visualization, the games, etc. So before you start, this is what we suggest. Number one, find out what is a carbon footprint calculator and how are they calculated, right? Like what's the logic behind carbon footprint calculators? And there are a dozen online, right? Even United Nations have an official one. If you guys want to check that out, you can just Google it. For those that do not know what a progressive web app is, we have information and links as well. But obviously, if you just Google or YouTube it, it's all there as well. We think it's important to really design the user experience before jumping into the progressive web app. We don't want a boring calculator, we want something fun, something engaging, something that people want to go back and type in those information and data to calculate the data they have in order to find out their footprint, which links to their game. Maybe this week they want to beat their best friend, for example, right? And our last suggestion is search for existing carbon footprint calculator. Don't reinvent one yourself. It will take a lot of time. Just use ones that are existing in terms of the logic, right? There are a lot online in open source. So last page, sorry, I know I mentioned keeping this short, deliverables. Number one, we want you to show us this progressive web app, right? Basically available. And on this progressive web app, I mentioned a few times, we want to see A, the calculator, and B, how this calculator links to the game. So just two things, calculator and games. Number two, what we need is preferably putting it on GitHub as well, but we won't really do any review of the code. Our focus is really just to see the calculator and the game. So that is the end of our kind of project description. I just want to check with Chi, who is also online, if I missed anything that you want to supplement for the students here at CIS.
By all, please. Yeah. Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to pause here to see if you guys have any questions. Obviously, again, if you don't have any questions now, you can always reach out to us during next week, the next few weeks. But I think in conclusion, I think this would be a very fun project. It has something to do with ESG, something that impacts the life of, daily life of people. And in fact, if this project is good, we are looking to, implement this into all of thousands and thousands of our users to really, use this calculator that you guys helped build. So, any questions? Don't be shy, right? Sherry, I just want to clarify, say if they don't have any questions now, but they have questions, say, in the next few days or when they start doing the project, is there a way for them to ask us directly? Sorry, Cher, I think you muted your.
Oh, sorry. No problem. Thanks for telling me. They can just contact the organizers from CIS X Ideas, and then we will relay the message. However, I think Darren will send out an email list, for like not an email list, but like contact methods, for you guys to the members. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Cherry. So, in terms of kind of logistics of the meeting, question. I understand Q&A is the last part, right? So, do you want to see
Yeah.
if your fellow students have any other questions, or how should we proceed?
No, I don't think so. If any of you guys in the meeting have any questions, feel free to ask now. I think, yeah.
Cool. I think some might be shy. I don't know. If we don't have any questions, I think that's all from us today. So let's stay in touch, and we look forward to the project that you guys built. Very exciting stuff.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Lam.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everyone's time, and thank you, Cherry, for hosting.
Yes, no problem.
Okay.
All right.
Have
That
a
is the
great
closing
weekend.
remarks. Thank
See
you.
you guys.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you.